Hey everyone, welcome to another match of Temur Hooting Delver. Today we're playing White-Red Aggro. Starting hand is a mulligan. We don't know what we're playing against. It's super heavy removal. It's too risky against the unknown. Second mulligan also sucks, unfortunately. So it looks like we're going to be going down to 5. This 5 is a keep, although we are land light. We have to make the decision here. We have 2 threats. We have a removal, and we have a Scry 1 ability. It's better than nothing. So let's see how this plays out. So we're going to cut ourselves off from green right now. My thinking here is we do need a way to cast Opt, and we do need a way to cast Delver and Tarfire. So we need a way to cast most of the cards in our hand given the situation. Plus we could potentially remove turn 1 Arbor Elf or Noble Hierarch or something else. So, listen, if we don't get a second land, it's game over anyway. So there's that. So Aether Vial coming down with Cavern of Souls. Yeah. I believe Cavern of Souls is set to humans. Let's see what our opponent does. Taking a bit of his time. So our Delver does not flip, but we get our green source, so that's actually not the worst thing in the world. We're going to go in and just go for the attack right now and see what our opponent does. See if they cheat in a creature. If so, then we could remove them potentially with Tarfire. Okay, nothing comes down. So we will definitely play our second land. It'd be stupid not to. And given the fact that we're playing against aggro, we're going to go on the hedge that they don't necessarily have removal in hand at the moment. And we'll play our Tarmogoyf. We can easily make Tarmogoyf 3-4, so not really concerned. Our opponent's fetching. And they play Knight of the Middlegrow, I believe. So we're playing a Knights. I said Cavern of Souls was on humans before, but it was actually on Knights. So we're playing some brewish white-red Aggro deck, it seems. Of course, at the time, I was still trying to figure that out. Delver flips, not too surprising. Having 2 turns in a row with no flips would be incredibly bad luck. We're definitely going to remove that blocking creature. And we're going to swing in, for 7 damage, which is significant. Brings our opponent down to 9, assuming they don't cheat anything in. Nope. Yep. Great. So far so good. The aggro deck's not being very aggro-y. We'll play Serum Visions because it digs for more. We draw Tarmogoyf. Mana Leak, not necessarily something that we want right now. And Stubborn Denial, not necessarily something we want right now. Our opponent is most likely not playing a spell-heavy deck. That's my hedge anyway. And we're about to put down a second huge threat. Okay, so Mirrodin Crusader is interesting. Don't see that too often. Usually when I see a card like this in the deck, I assume our opponent is also playing one of the many sword equipments available in Modern. But so far we haven't seen that. Mirrodin Crusader is going to be interesting. It does have protection from green, which means it does blank our Tarmogoyf. So we're gonna fly in with our Delver instead. And we're gonna play our second Tarmogoyf. Yeah. So even with Mirrodin Crusader down, we could at least swing past it with another Tarmogoyf. Knight of the White Orchard. Alright. A way for our opponent to ramp, but not happening this game. So there you go, as I was expecting, at some point, a sword comes down, in this case War and Peace. Not too concerning this turn because, yeah, I mean, the opponent doesn't have enough mana to equip it. So, this is okay. Now, next turn... Now, if we draw a burn spell, it's essentially game over. And I most likely would be digging for one if we don't draw one. Let's see. No, that's not it. But it will allow us to use Thought Scour. Which I think at this point is prudent. And we hope we don't discard removal. Of course, a Lightning Bolt. Exactly what we wanted. Not to happen, but it happened anyway. So we're going to try with Opt. Let's see what we see on the top of our deck. Serum Visions. See, this is tempting. It's very tempting because we could take Serum Visions, cast it, dig further. But, yeah, I think I scry to the bottom and I draw a Lightning Bolt. So, you see, these are plays where it's definitely at least partially luck, but it also comes down to decision making. Okay, so I could have taken the Serum Visions, it could have been safer, or I could have just kept digging for one of my, 7 or 8 removal spells in the deck. And I went with that hedge, and we won because of it. If I kept Serum Visions, this game would have gone on for at least another turn, and it may not have ended as well for us. So, I'm thinking about Blood Moon here, at least to cut off our opponent from white. All we saw was greedy land grabs, land fetches in that first game. And my thinking here is remove access to white. Thought Scour, also not necessary because we're going to be interacting with our opponent quite a bit, at least with the removal. Force of Negation seems less important, and I think if I stick to that decision, it's the right one. Removing Hooting Mandrills for Huntmaster of the Fells also seems important here. If I do manage to resolve Huntmaster, I get a body, I get some life, and if they don't deal with Huntmaster, that's going to be extremely problematic because I'll be pinging their tiny creatures every time he transforms into a werewolf. So I think that was the right call. Our opponent was definitely slow this game, but it is what it is when you're playing on Xmage. So opening hand is decent. I tend to want more spells than lands. So I mean, 3 lands I think is the limit. I would prefer 2 lands, but it is what it is. This is still safe. There's removal. There's card drawing and card fixing, and we have 2 threats. So that's great. Okay, and we draw our 3rd threat, which is fantastic. Now we get Steam Vents because we were able to get a force with our Misty Rainforest, and then we have our island, so if we do draw Blood Moon, we're Blood Moon safe. Let's see if Delver eats a Path to Exile, which I'm assuming is one of the few spells our opponent is playing. So they are doing... Yeah, they are doing main phase fetch, which is fine. Oh, okay. That was weird. I guess he was just getting ahead of himself, but okay. I am happy with Delver surviving. So Giver of Runes, slightly annoying card, because it definitely has to eat removal before anything else is removal. The question is, when do you want to execute that removal? Let's see what I ended up doing here. It really depends. I mean, next turn we want to play more spells to advance our board state. If Delver flips, it's great. If Delver doesn't flip, I may very well remove Giver of Runes immediately. Of course, our opponent is playing as slowly as possible. Show me the instant or sorcery. There it is. So we get a Delver flip. Traverse is actually great. So at this point, the decision is, do we remove Inserum or do we put down Tarmogoyf? So far, not the most explosive start game 2 for my opponent. I think it would make sense at the very least to attack in first and see what happens. Give our opponent the illusion that we have no other lands to play, no other spells to play. I like that idea. No blocks. Great. Path to Exile. I would say our opponent was slow rolling that, but no, he's just slow rolling everything in general. It's fine. We'll go get our... Yeah, I think a force is okay. Our opponent does inadvertently accelerate us, which is okay. Now the hope is that he has cleared out his hand of any other removal, at least for the time being. I think at this point the correct play is, yes, to use Serum Visions, draw a card, scry 2, and then hold the Lightning Bolt for now. Yeah, Tarmogoyf is good. More threats the better right now. And we're going to have the land to play Tarmogoyf next turn. And yeah, we decide to take out Giver of Runes immediately. And this is, this is resource management. Now I could have done that next turn. On our opponent's turn, it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. It may have altered his play a bit. But this is okay. I got a bit hasty, but I don't think it hurts us in any way. So, Verdant Crusader comes down. We know we draw our second Tarmogoyf. And at this point, given that Verdant Crusader is down, we need to start racing on the board. You see I was getting a bit agitated that our opponent is taking his time. Yeah, we get our Stomping Ground, play Tarmogoyf number 1. Tarmogoyf number 2. And away we go. So we have 2, 4, 5 Tarmogoyfs. That's decent. Won't play Hooting Mandrills yet, but we're a couple of turns away from that once we play our other payoff spells. Traverse currently cannot go and tutor a creature. If, however, we use Windcaller Raven next turn, Traverse will become active. Okay. So another Path to Exile, our opponent potentially top decked. It's fine because we get our third and final basic. Actually, I could. It's quite annoying, but it is what it is. It does help us accelerate Hooting Mandrills coming down. Now let's see what else our opponent has. Nothing at the moment, so it looks like he's just going to go and attack in. We can't do much here because of the protection from green. Interestingly, our opponent does not attack in. Presumably because he sees no point in doing that, and would rather play defense because he can block our only attacking creature anyway. It kind of stalls the board. I suppose that's okay, but if he doesn't advance any further this turn, then that's not necessarily a good thing for him. Of course, he doesn't know that we could actually make our Tarmogoyf a flying Tarmogoyf, which is fantastic. Yeah, I think the smart call here is to use our Wind Caller immediately. What's great about this is that if Traverse does become... if the Delirium on Traverse becomes active, which it will now with 4 card types in our graveyard, we can get a Huntmaster of the Fells, and I would almost certainly be getting one. Also, always wanted to, I would want to play a Huntmaster as much as possible, and sideboarded games are the only time I can play them. So now I'm going to attack because I can, and I'm going to be coming in for 4, and we need to start hitting our opponent and putting pressure on him. The good thing here is, and the tricky thing here is, we have Mana Leak. And Mana Leak is going to be useless for any creatures he casts, but it's going to be very useful for an equipment spell that he casts. So we can definitely go dig for our Huntmaster of the Fells this turn. I don't think I'm going to be casting our Huntmaster of the Fells this turn. There's no reason for us to necessarily rush him out right now. It's not like our opponent is going super wide and we need to stop the bleeding here. So as predicted, Huntmaster of the Fells, of course. Again, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if I cast him. In fact, I'm looking to cast Hooting Mandrills instead. As you can see, I'm counting my graveyard. And yes, our opponent has creature, instant, and land in their graveyard, so that we can safely remove those. All we need to do is keep a sorcery. Let's see what our opponent does. Nothing. Good. Our opponent fetches. So right now I'm relatively confident. Our opponent has almost no board presence. Marin Crusader is scary, but he's not scary alone. He's usually scary when he's equipped. Coming in for 4 damage, not too concerning. Giver of Runes, however, annoying. Not that we can really, remove Marin Crusader at the moment, but that protection that she's going to offer will be slightly annoying. Now the question... Oh, well, our opponent has 0 cards in hand. I didn't even notice that. So he definitely does not have equipment. And at this point, he's definitely going to play defense. And this is what I mean. The minute the Huntmaster comes onto the field next turn, it's going to be game very swiftly for our opponent. Especially if he's top decking everything now. So he needs to top deck removal for Huntmaster, or he needs to top deck equipment for Marin Crusader, and at that point I'm not too certain how useful that equipment will be. Plus we have to assume that he'll even be able to resolve the equipment because we do have Mana Leak. So I'm relatively confident at the moment. And I do have to apologize again for how slow our opponent plays. I usually speed up these matches by 25%, but even there, this was pretty bad. You can imagine how frustrating it was when I was actually playing. Okay. Finally, our opponent passed priority, so we can go get our other land. Probably steam vents, doesn't really matter. Looking at our opponent's land, you can see how devastating a Blood Moon would have been. You know, actually just putting on a Blood Moon right now would make it game, even if we don't cast Huntmaster, just because they'd be turned off from almost anything. So we draw another Hooting Mandrills, don't necessarily need it. Definitely going to attack in. We're not afraid of our creatures dying. I mean, if he does block Hooting Mandrills, that's okay. He will kill Hooting Mandrills. But it looks like he's more interested in our Tarmogoyf. So he's going to take 4. He chooses not to use Giver of Runes as a blocker. And now we put down Huntmaster, our favorite creature. We're going to get into life, we're going to get a wolf token out of it, and now we have something to chump block with. It's a pretty good turn overall. Our opponent is down to 8. Okay, another White Orchid. I think I control more lands, so he's going to be able to go get a land. And no, I think he realizes that it's pretty much game over. And it is. Next turn we come in for a lot of damage. Even if they manage to cast a spell that turn, which they did with that creature. Next turn I won't cast anything. I'll have Huntmaster flip the following turn, deal 2 more damage to him and a creature they control. Yeah, it's game over, and I think our opponent saw the writing on the wall. So despite our opponent kind of struggling to establish a board presence, I think it was important to note that we also made it very hard for our opponent to establish a board presence. Our removal was useful when we needed it, and we kept applying pressure when necessary. And keep in mind, we also mulliganed to 5 in the second game, and we were still able to keep up. So that is not necessarily a testament just to Temur Delver, although it is. But, you know, our opponent also played a role here. He may not have been as skilled a pilot, or the deck just may not have been up to the task of dealing with a deck of the caliber as of Temur Hooting Delver. So I think it was still good to watch. I think even though we didn't see Huntmaster do his thing, I think it's important to note, you know, just how quickly Huntmaster can further put pressure on our opponent and, you know, further seal the deal for him. He still didn't know we had mana leak, which means, you know, equipment was most likely not going to resolve. And even if he had mana leak mana to make it resolve, he wouldn't have had any mana to equip it to a Mirran Crusader, and then it would have been a waste. And we would have just trampled over. So that was it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I've got a bunch more of these Temur Delver matches I need to do commentary on. Like the video if you enjoyed it, please, and subscribe. You know, I kind of feel weird always asking that in videos. I know all YouTubers do it, but I would really appreciate it. I would appreciate the support. Plus, you get notifications when I post more match videos like this one. Thanks. Have a good one.